Welcome y'all to the Blackhoof Saloon, a Wild West Exodus podcast. Mosey on up to the bar and get yourself a bottle of firewater or a glass of sarsaparilla and listen to some good old yarns about adventures of law dogs, outlaws, and weird creatures. So set a spell, water your ride or your rider, and get ready to tune up your posses. This is the Blackhoof Saloon.
Howdy, 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 all you owl-hoots. Blackhoof Saloon, we're back. New year, new decade. How you all guys doing? This is Eric here, and I am joined, as always, with the Rhinestone Cowboy, Brian Jedi Powell.
Howdy, everybody.
Nice.
And also, not on mute, I have Tommy K.
Hey, everybody.
So, yep, it's a new year. How was everybody's new year? Did you guys all fall asleep at 8 o'clock like I basically did and wake up right before the stroke of midnight?
Not me. Not me. I was out. I was out and about.
Out and about tearing up the town?
No, just hanging out.
Just hanging out.
But went to my brother-in-law's house and drank and made merry.
Well, that's what you
good
usually...
old time.
Yeah, good old time. That's what we usually do on New Year's Eve. But I think I'm getting old. I hate to say that, but yeah. I mean, we played some games, some board games, and then just like had a big meal and just crashed.
You think you're getting old, huh?
Well, maybe I am a little bit. I don't know. My body tells me that.
Could be. Could be. I think I might still be the baby on the podcast.
I think so. Brian's the old man.
Sorry, Brian.
Not by much, Brian.
I didn't say it.
But speaking of New Year's and resolutions, before we, it's a new year, usually you make new resolutions. And last year, a year ago, we actually had some resolutions that we came up with. And I want to kind of touch on them and see how we did over this past year. So I'm actually going to start with you, Tom.
I don't remember what they were, so I can't imagine I followed through.
I went back, I looked and listened and wrote them down. So Tom said that you were talking about that Mike Pierce was at that time getting some games going at Top Deck, and that you wanted to make it out for those. And you also, your big one for the year was to paint a mini this year.
I did that.
Yes.
I actually did that.
We actually have a picture for proof of that too. It's
a mini.
I think we have it on the Facebook page and even on. I'm trying to remember. Did you posted it to Twitter? I think because you were so excited that you painted a mini.
It was legendary Morgan Earp.
Yeah. Because I remember giving you a hard time about the 3-color and just dip and done.
Well, that's pretty much what I did. It looks good to me.
And then, Brian, your New Year's resolution is you wanted to branch out and get another store into your fold of doing demos and doing little play days and whatnot.
So I did actually branch out to 2 additional stores with preliminary intros. And they both went okay. One was more successful than the other, but I haven't set up a regular play or done any big recruitments at those locations. So they basically well received, but need repeat visits to actually get people in.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing that, or were they kind of one and done?
I plan on doing that. It's just the fall season was pretty rough on this old guy, so I wasn't able to get back into those stores.
Yeah, that's the that's the problem with real life. It gets in the way of having fun.
Yes.
I have the
Yes, it
same
does.
problem. And then mine, so I also, like Brian, wanted to get into, reach out to some new stores in my area and just do some demo days and whatnot. And I did get in one of my old stomping grounds and did a demo day there, and the response was pretty good. That was actually fairly recent. That was back in November. And then I did get in a smaller store that's a little more local for me a couple times. So I did kind of do that, but like Brian, life got in the way, and it's hard to, I have a regular store that I'm always going to every month, and to add more stores, it got to be a little much. But yeah, you do have to kind of do that repeat events to kind of, a lot of these stores have their established community members that always go to that store and hang out and play whatever games. And consistency is a good thing to get players in. So, got to keep trying. And then, of course, I wanted to paint more also, Tom. This one I don't know if I was successful in because, I don't know. I feel like I was, but then again, I'm not sure. I don't remember where I was last year at this time, like how much gray I had type thing. So
I would say if you feel like you did better, then you did better.
Yeah, I guess I was more focused. I wasn't jumping around a lot of painting, oh, this model looks cool, let's paint this. I was a little more focused of painting things that I wanted to use. And that's something I still kind of want to strive for. But those were our resolutions from last year. So let's go into, you guys got any resolutions for this coming year, for 2020?
Oh, boy.
I think, Tom, you're off to a good start, actually, already, though.
I am. I'm trying to be. So Benji was it Benji who put out the challenge to everybody needs to make some resolutions?
I think so. It was probably in one of his Wednesday or Thursday blog posts that he posts.
Yeah. So I kind of jumped on that, and I think I said something about like a model a month or something along those lines.
Okay.
Which, that's 12 times my normal output.
Yeah, we were talking before we started recording that you've already surpassed last year.
I did. I've got my face for the painting challenge mostly done. I have to base them. I maybe throw in a few details here and there. I haven't decided whether I feel that ambitious, but yeah, for the most part, I feel like I've gotten him where he needs to be, and so that's January.
Yeah, and as a little plug, we actually did a new video for the YouTube channel where Brian kind of walked you through some painting class thing.
He did, and I'm actually working on that model right now with some more of the glow effects.
Cool.
So Brian moves a lot quicker than I do, so I had to restrict what I was doing to just a couple of small parts. So I'm currently working on getting some of the other parts done. Yeah,
so if you guys haven't checked that out, we did it, I think I posted it just a couple of weeks ago on the YouTube channel. It's a little side-by-side thing of Brian walking Tom through painting glow effects on some models. Yeah, I mean, if you keep kind of working on, I think, just certain paint style, that's one way to kind of get better at it, just repetition. I was telling somebody just a week ago, me and one other guy got together, group of friends, and they wanted to paint, and me and him were kind of showing them completely two different ways and styles of painting, where he was doing the whole wash, prime white, and then doing washes, where I had the black prime and I was doing the layer effect. And I don't think we scared him off, because the one guy's girlfriend was all over it. She was having a blast, and listening to us tell her why we did this, why we did that. And, just through practice, you're going to get better. Brian, do you got any resolutions for this year?
Just more games.
More games?
I think I want to find at least a group this year that can have a little more staying power. The 6 players we had out in the Woodlands, which is kind of far for me, they didn't sustain themselves long enough to, be consistent to have games. So it petered out. It was like we went strong in 2018, and we had events every month, and sometimes more than once a month, and then they stopped coming. They just got so busy with other stuff that we had too many no-show events.
It does seem once summer comes along and people kind of start doing vacations and just, different activities, that people's time is kind of precious. So it's hard to do those hobby activities. So that's a tough time for me usually. That and actually holidays are really tough for me because I'm just so busy. By the time I get home, I'm exhausted. That it's hard to sit and focus on working on your projects and then actually getting to the store and having something, somewhat ready. So I think that's one of my resolutions, is to kind of plan out what I'm working on better and just get a little more focused than I was last year on if I'm going to work on models, not just work on the one random guy I think is cool, but actually try to finish off the whole unit if it's units. I still have widowers sitting on the small bases, and it's after we talked about Tesla and Eiffel, I want to try something with Eiffel and see how it works. But in order to do that, I got to focus on getting stuff together and done for them. So that's kind of my goal, is to just have a little more organization in my list building with my models. It'll give me some kind of direction of what to work on. And then, of course, just, keep plugging at the stores and doing demos. The last 2 events I've planned out a lot further than I normally have, so it's sitting on, Facebook a lot longer so people can see it. And it seems like that's working. I was kind of afraid that, people are going to forget about, the event. But I think being out there longer, it's the way Facebook works with events. They pop up. Every person that'll look at it, it gets shuffled in that, formula when it pops up. So more people are starting to see it. And I'm starting to get, it's people clicking interested, but it's more people clicking interested, whereas before, when I made it a little bit shorter window while it was sitting up there.
Well, you get on people's schedules that way, too. I mean, sometimes the problem is that you got to schedule things out a little bit.
Yeah.
I know for me, my life runs on schedules. And if you don't get on my schedule a couple of months ahead of time, you're not going to get on it.
Yeah.
So, that's I'm sure that's probably the same for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys in my group, they're like us. They have families, they have kids, and the kids have their events. And Tommy, full well of this. They're driving everywhere.
Well, you guys got it from my son last night. As I'm driving, I'm opening my phone. I'm like, text these guys, tell them I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, the joy of kids.
Yeah, I started reading what he was writing. I'm like, really?
I thought it was hilarious. So, did you guys rewind in a little bit? We'll go a little before New Year's Eve, Christmas. Did you guys get any cool stuff for Christmas? Last year, a lot of us just bought our own Christmas gifts.
Not gaming related, no. So I got some cool stuff, but not gaming related.
Yeah.
I've struck out 3 or 4 years in a row now, just saying, "What do you want? Just get me a gift card to the local shop." Nope, didn't happen. So
well, I ended up pulling the trigger and got a Christmas/birthday new computer for a gift. Kind of needed it, and well, you guys get to enjoy it. Hear us still record. But no, I think after Christmas, I did get some Christmas monies, and I did go ahead and pick up the Only God Forgives posse. Me and Brian were talking about it on, last time. I think we did a news segment a little bit, and just talking about it in general with other people. And that posse just was very intriguing to me, of all the variety it had in it, that I'm like, okay, I got to get this, because there's so many different spots that I can put those different characters. So that was my little treat to myself, and of course the Christmas model.
Right. So, Brian, how did you do for Christmas?
I really didn't get anything yet. I'm doing planning of what to get, but I haven't actually ordered anything.
Wow, that sounds weird for you.
Right. So some of the things I did get weren't game related. I got new earbuds, the Bluetooth kind, and I got a really cool Star Wars tie with a.
I was just gonna say, I bet you got a tie.
Pin, got a tie tag, and it's kind of low key. It's crossed lightsabers like all over the tie, and so the lightsaber pin is crossed lightsabers.
Nice.
Was that your dad gift? Usually, kids give dads ties.
Actually, my wife found them.
Ah, okay.
Well, it's just kind of funny because I had told her that I wanted to order, a Star Wars tie tag, and she was like, and I sent her a link, and she just kind of blew me off, and then ordered it.
Hey, Brian, if you're gonna wear it, I may have a tie I can send you too. It's a dark navy blue tie, and it looks like blueprints to all of the Rebel starfighters all over it.
Oh, he would so wear that.
Yeah.
As I say, if you said it had Star Wars on it, Brian will wear it.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, she found a button, kind of like a little button down or button up short sleeve shirt, and it had all these Darth Vaders, like just his head, and they're small, and it looks like a print, but it's low key enough that unless you're paying attention, you may not even notice them. And,
nice.
And I wore that to work,
Yeah, I saw a cool one in the store, Brian, over Christmas, and it didn't look like much of anything. It looked like it was like I forget what color the background was, but just looked like a bunch of white dots all over it until you got really close and you realized that it was a bunch of stormtrooper heads.
Right.
Over the entire tie. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Well, why don't we go ahead and put a cork in our banter for the intro, and you guys want to move into our smoke wagon for this episode?
Sure.
You ready, Brian?
Let's do that.
You're concentrating.
Let's skin that smoke wagon and see where it gets us.
All right, we'll go ahead and get into it.
Go ahead, skin it. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Listen, mister, I'm getting awful tired of your...
I'm getting tired of your gas. Now jerk that pistol and go to work. I said throw down, boy.
All right, guys. Welcome to another showdown in the dusty streets. Another Smoke-Wagon Showdown, and we got an interesting pair for you guys today. And as always, what we're going to do at the end, after this episode, we're going to go ahead and post up a poll for these guys that we're going to talk about today. And like last time, so actually I have two older ones that we got to talk about, because the last regular one, Smoke Wagon, we did Eiffel and Tesla. And in that one, Tesla ended up coming out on top 66% to 34%, which I think is fair. I mean, even Tom, you were talking about you had no interest in Tesla until we talked about them, and you were just like, damn, I think I have to get them.
Yeah, and I will. I will eventually.
And then our other poll that actually, as time of recording, I just put it up beginning of this week. So it's still got a little bit of time. We may check in on it probably the next episode just to see where it shakes out. But we did our Christmas episode where we had a Christmas Smoke-Wagon Showdown with all the holiday festive models of Krampus Rex, Kyle the Red and White, and Madre Navidad. And at this time of recording, so far, Rex is killing it. He's killing it with 19 different people that voted for him over Kyle, who's at 6, and Madre's at 4. So, like I said, we just posted this one up the other day. So I think there's a lot more people out there that just need to pick their favorites, who would win that smoke wagon. So we'll check back with that one. But going back to today's smoke wagon, we are going to take a look at two bosses. One is Ponce de Leon of the Conquistadores, and I almost want to say this is kind of yin and yang. We're going to look at Viridian Alpha of the Watchers. So these two guys have a pretty rich story fluff tie-in that I know Brian's going to love to talk about after we go over all these guys' stats and their abilities and stuff. So who do you guys want to start with? You want to start with the Spaniard raid everything and steal all their gold? Or you want to go with the little off-worlder? Of course, he's not so little.
Let's start with the Spaniard.
A Spaniard? All right. He's got a cool hat, right?
He's got a cool hat. He's got a cool chest piece.
That there is not a hat. It's a helmet.
He Okay, Captain Semantics.
I like his mustache. He's got the little bit of a curl to it.
He's got a nice chest piece. He's going to live forever.
All right, so let's go over Juan, and let's just go over his little keywords he has. He is a boss. He is also in the Outlaws, male, human, mercenary, and like we said, he's a sub-faction of the Outlaws, Conquistadors. He has a fortune of 3. I had to do some scribbling here on my little notes because I have an old stat card. I think this is right, 155 points, and he is unique.
That's what I see.
All right, good. My scribbling was right.
And I love that his name is Juan Ponce de Leon.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Bill and Ted's when he's like, hey, this is Bob Genghis Khan.
All right, what's he got for stats there?
All right, so his stat cylinder starts with a quick of 5. Then it goes on to his mind of 6, an aim of 5, a grit of 6, a fight of 6, and he comes in at a limit of 3.
So he's got a pretty, I would say, almost basic. We see these kind of stats very regularly on a lot of the bosses. So he's got some good stats.
Right. So he's got a little bit of above average stats. For a boss, they seem pretty low. I think that once we get into his abilities and you see why.
Yeah.
They had to temper the rest of the card by giving him kind of mid-range stats. So he's got 3 weapon options, and this is where you start to see why his stat wheel may be a little low for some of our other bosses. He's got smoke grenades, so they have smoke screen, indirect, and blast. Range of 8, so chucking them a couple of inches longer than most thrown items. Pierce of 0 for the smoke grenades, and its rate of attack 1. He has a melee option called the Blade of Tolan. Gives him parry and hazardous. Also crits to fatal. It's got a range of 1 inch, a Pierce -4 and rate of attack of 1. So Pierce 4 with Fatal as a crit, it's going to be 9.
Yeah.
So it's really good.
Seems good.
Yeah, and it's got a 1-inch range as well, so it's pretty good as a melee option to always be hitting with Hazardous and then throwing in the Fatal. That's good too. All right. So now, then he's also got a rifle. His rifle is named. I'm hoping that doesn't speak to maybe any mental illness. If it talks to it, maybe hampers it a little much.
Poor Juan Ponce.
Right. And of course, it's like one of those Hispanic sounding names that I'm going to butcher real quick. So if anyone wants to correct it afterwards,
I can't.
I
can't. Hey,
I'm gonna give you a pass on this one, bro.
Yeah, you probably said it better than I would.
I appreciate it.
Anyway, I don't have a clue.
It comes with ammo clip and beacon. So we know what ammo clip. It's general theme in the Golden Army, the ability to pick from a handful of the weapon qualities. Very good, especially on a 20-inch range Pierce 2 rifle. Beacon is not seen very, very often.
No.
It allows you to bring reinforcements from basically from the target you hit. So you shoot a dude, and then next time you activate something, you can call in reserves from wherever that dude was. So it's useful. That rifle also has decapitate on a crit. So reach out 20-inch range with that kind of ability is pretty good. Tom, what common rules does Ponce bring to the table?
Ponce brings metal, the quick and the dead, largesse, target priority, and prodigious.
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 Okay, I got scribbling here. What's his special rules? My first one, I had to scribble out the old one. Right, the new one, I can't read my own writing.
Well, so his first one listed is Quick Strike. So this is very good with you have a weapon like the Blade of Talon, because once per activation, if he hits with his ROA of 1, he then can make a second strike action on the same or different target for 1 action point rather than the usual 2. So he's able to do a second attack. As long as his first one succeeded, he can do the second one with 1 less of the action points.
Yeah.
Which basically means he's a combat master. The next one is Shrewd Strategist.
It's one of your favorite, Brian.
Love it. So this is the models, it gives it to him once per turn. During his activation, he can spend an action point to look at the top 3 cards from either the adventure deck or the action deck. He can discard the card or return it to the top of the deck.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It gives you the ability to check to see what comes next on either one of the 2 decks, and it helps you react, right? So if you know you peek and it's a 1, well, you can just discard it, right? You're not going to know what card comes next, but you know that 1's not a good one, so you can get rid of it.
Yeah.
Or you see that it's a 4, well, then now you have advance warning of what you're going to do in your next turn. Or you may want to go ahead and activate teamwork and follow up with knowing that you have that 4. You can go ahead and take care of some business right then. So, and of course, Ponce de Leon, I guess, wouldn't be Ponce de Leon if he wasn't encouraging his men to fight the long fight, being temporal displaced. Spaniard with a good inspirational. So his next ability, inspirational, gives any of his friendly units within 6 inches, they can re-roll a single dice during their activation. So free re-rolls come in handy.
Always valuable.
Oh, yeah. Next one, another one of my favorite. I think it's your favorite too, Eric.
Yeah, I really like
Treasure
this.
Hunt. So Treasure Hunter, it adds another card to your adventure card hand, which is huge. So you're playing whatever size game you're playing, you get one more card than your opponent.
No.
Unless they also know that having a treasure hunter is a good idea. Why wouldn't you? One downside of treasure hunter is it doesn't stack.
Yeah.
So load up multiple treasure hunters. Only one is going to gives you that extra card.
But
when
you have a backup.
You can have a backup. So if one of your treasure hunters falls in battle and you have a second one in the thing, your next turn you'll still be able to go back up to that 1+ card.
Yep.
You have a backup. And his last ability is shoulder to shoulder. Models in this unit gain +1 grit when in base contact with another friendly model with this rule. And it has a caveat, and models with mounted trait can't benefit from the rule. So, Ponce can shoulder up next to some of his other named Conquistadors who also have shoulder to shoulder, and they get that benefit of the grit.
Yeah, he's got some good abilities. Pretty, I would almost say he's, nothing overly complicated. Some of these guys, it's just like you got to have it set up for it to work the best, whereas his are very straightforward.
Right. So he's a melee boss with a great distance, weapon. He really can capitalize being in melee, but you don't necessarily have to risk him to do that because his rifle is really good.
Should we go over his theme posse, Brian?
Yeah, we would be doing a disservice if we did.
Yeah.
So one of the neat things about the Conquistador theme posse is it can come in an outlaw, a warrior nation, and an order posse. So if Ponce de Leon picks his theme posse, he can join both an order and a warrior nation force, which, if you're paying attention to all the different cards, not very many things can jump in to an order list or a warrior nation list because everyone's using that RJ and they don't play well with the order or the warrior nations. So if you're painting your Conquistadors blue glow instead of red glow, or you're going to be weird because then I take kindly to be working with them red glow dudes. So if all 6 slots of his posse contain at least 1 unit in each, then all units in the posse ignore attribute penalties for the stunned and disordered conditions. So they still count as having the conditions, they just don't suffer any of the penalties. Also, the only boss trait permitted in the posse. And let's discuss the slots. So he's got a very unimaginative slot placement.
No.
What's the first
Tell
one?
me more.
Well, you can take a Conquistador face unit in slot number 1.
What's in slot 2, Tom?
In slot number 2, we have a Conquistador face unit.
And in slot 3, a Conquistador face unit.
Hey, it looks like something different, Brian. What's 4?
A Conquistador support unit.
Wait, number 5 gets really exciting. You can have up to 2 Conquistador face units.
I think number 6, they just ran out of ideas and they just went with 2 Conquistador units again.
Face units.
Face units.
Face unit.
So, yeah, they're very select on who they bring with them.
Right. So the Conquistadors, again, are a tricky bit based on the fluff, right? So if you read the front of the rule book, or now I guess it's in the back of the rule book, and you read about the Watchers, or if you read the Watchers, you're going to get a nice long bit about the Conquistadors, right? So Ponce de Leon and his men were searching for, Fountain of Youth, exploring, the New World, and they found what probably they had no idea what it was. It was, to them, they were probably thinking, oh, this is a weird temple. What the heck is this? But it was completely foreign to them, and it was actually a Watcher's base. And so they storm in, trying to figure out what it is, and inadvertently set off a chain reaction that basically detonates the base. Doing so, the portal, the way the Watcher's base was functioning, it had a portal that was connected to their spaceship in orbit. Well, when the base detonated, the portal malfunctioned. And instead of just teleporting the conquistadors or destroying them, they were caught in a temporal pop, basically, and they survived. But it was a temporal pop, so they basically walk out of the wreckage of this base. All the Watchers are gone. They don't know where they are because of the time difference. They were, unaffected and walked out, and we're like, well, where are we? And then they discover that they're not in what would be their world. So their adventures start after this time jump, right, into now would be the Wild West time. And here they are, equipped with obviously some modified weaponry with the Watchers and technology-wise. And then they obviously get resources from the locals in, South America and South Mexico, all those, right? So that's how they're tied, and that's one of the reasons we went with Ponce de Leon and the Watchers, is because their early stories and the fluff kind of link. So
yeah, you kind of can't talk about one without mentioning the other one,
right?
I mean, they're kind of a bane in Watchers now existence.
Right. So part of the Watchers fluff is the ship suffered damage when the portal popped, right? Because one half of the portal was linked to the ship, and that is the ship that crashes into Antarctica, which is now the origin of the Lost World Exodus. So
yeah,
you have this little connection back over to that, and so it's kind of neat. The Watchers on Earth are a small group that was here, right? Most of the ones on the ship didn't survive, so it was only their small pockets of soldiers spread out on these little outposts throughout the North American continent that survived. So there's the idea that they're the last men standing on Earth, against all of this evil that they've been watching.
Yeah,
and they've been basically watching for years and trying to survive, but then also trying to fix or build a way for them to communicate with the rest of the Watchers, throughout in other parts of the galaxy, so they can, phone home.
phone.
Need some help.
Yeah, they need to get a speak and spell, right?
So maybe they're looking for Elliot.
Like for Elliot. So speaking of Watchers, why don't we go with our other boss we were going to talk about today, who is Viridian Alpha. So Viridian Alpha was one of the original bosses that we saw come out for the Watchers. He's got boss, Watchers, Viridian, and Alpha. And then,
so wait, the Viridian Alpha has Viridian and Alpha?
Yeah, pretty simple, ain't it?
So,
right.
The issue is that the way their society is set up is they don't walk around with like actual names, right? So they're not Bob and Sam.
That'd be awesome.
We can fix that,
You can name them all you want, put them a little name plaque on their base, whatever. So that's one of the reasons you have these are iconic positions in the hegemony, right? So you have the Viridians are this particular alien species. So anytime you see Viridian, it's basically saying, hey, it's the Viridian race. The next word is going to be more about what function they do in that race. So the alphas in the Watcher are the bosses, the leaders. These are the guys that have the most intellect to be able to do tactics. That's their function, is to be the
commander, basically.
Commander, be the spokesperson for whatever mission that they're on. So the Viridian Alpha, again, that's where you're going to see Viridian. It's going to be shared by some of the other Viridian units. And then, of course, he does have a legendary as well.
Yeah, that's right. So he's looking at a fortune of 4, 185 points, and he is also unique. So you can only have one Viridian Alpha.
Right. That's a change, right? So before the fluff change on the Watchers, a lot of the Watchers did not have unique.
Yeah.
So you could have played with multiple Viridian Alphas. But with the lore and the fluff and the theme, the Watchers changed a bit, and it's not like massive amounts of aliens because their ship and their support have all but gone. So there's a finite number of troops, one Viridian Alpha, one Magenta Alpha. There's just the resources are a lot limited. So the idea that they are the last men standing is kind of like a neat little, it puts everything a little more of a deadly perspective, so to speak.
Yeah, how desperate they are. All right, what kind of stats does he have, Brian?
All right, so he's quick of 6. He has a mind of 7. He has an aim of 6, a grit of 7, a fight of 6, and a limit of 3.
Well, he's got some 7s in there.
Yeah, no, he's a much more robust, leader. The grit of 7 is going to give him a little harder to kill. He's got the 6 in both aim and fight. And now that we're jumping to his weapons, he's got one of each. He's got the Viridian staff, and it's that big, wicked-looking staff that is on his model with big, almost like a double-bladed axe at one end. It has parry, and it crits to decapitate. Mm-hmm. It's got a 1-inch range, pierce 3, rate of attack 2.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that the range on that's not a little bit more as big as that thing is on the model. Because we had some other...
The thing to consider is he's on a bigger base.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He is on a bigger base. That's true.
So that's taken into the context of that, right? So if he was on a small base and had that huge staff, you may see more of a range on it.
Yeah.
But as he's on a medium base, technically that 1 inch is like 2 inches.
Yeah, that's true.
His other weapon is what's called the Disruptor Blaster. It's a handheld blaster of some alien design. It has close work, allowing him to shoot you in the face with it when you come too close. It has crit displace. So if he shoots you and you crit, it will scatter you, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like his blast really shook you. It jolted you with that sucker.
Right. So he has a range of 10, pierce of 2, and ROA of 1.
All right, so next up we have a look at his common rules. Tommy, you ready?
His common rules are metal, the quick and the dead, largesse, and target priority.
I heard paintbrushing clinging there to make sure you're ready. He's determined to get that resolution, Brian.
I'm gonna do it.
Put my brush down.
So pretty basic, especially for a boss with the common rules. Special rules. What do we got there? You want me to do them, Brian? You've been yakking a lot.
Yeah, you can start. We can take turns if you want.
All right. So his first one is Viridian Clade. So this unit adds +1 to the reserve checks made for this unit while it is held in reserve. Now keep in mind, when you do a reserve check, you're using a mind. His mind is 7. So he's getting a +1, so he's doing a reserve check at 8 already as it is. And then say you focus it, he's bringing in whatever he wants in reserve.
Right. So the next one he has is Xeno Shield.
Oh,
this unit may ignore the first point of piercing from attacks by ranged weapons. Weapons with a pierce of -4 or greater ignore the Xeno Shield special rule.
Yeah. So in a way, it's kind of like durable. You know, he's ignoring that
Right.
one. But man, that's
It's
every...
basically a shooty shield.
Yeah.
So he's got a grit of 8 against ranged weapons unless it's a Pierce 4 or greater. So basically, you know, your big nasty weapons basically punch through the shield.
Yeah.
Which works. I like it.
Okay, and then his third special rule is rally. So any friendly... Let me start over. Rally any friendly units, excluding the Viridian Alpha, within 10 inches may automatically pass any yellow checks. So that basically they don't get scared if they're close enough to them.
Right. And I like that it's 10 inch. You know, you don't have to have his grades up close.
Yeah.
Any of his units like really up near him. It has a good range on it.
And look, Brian, it's like we planned it. You're one of your favorites.
Right. So the Viridian Alpha also has shrewd strategists. As you know, we just talked about it. Having the ability to take a peek at your cards gives you a little bit advanced tactic. So definitely a nice pickup for the Viridian Alpha.
All right. Well, let's take a look at his posse, his theme posse. So I always had problems building these guys. So go ahead, Brian.
So instead of the faction posse, he can bring the Viridian Clade theme. If all Viridian units in the posse are at maximum unit size, then they gain the prodigious rule. So,
That's fantastic. When you focus them for 3. I mean, they're already tough. So just getting that extra bonus, oh man, scary.
now the downside of that is it's 6 cylinders or 6 slots.
Yeah.
Are all the same.
We thought the Conquistadors were...
Right. So the Viridian Clade wins in the unoriginality award.
But you know what, though? It seems unoriginal, but it's incredibly flexible.
Well,
Yeah.
right. So it's each slot is a Viridian unit.
So you got to look at the keywords.
So you explore the Watchers models and any of the Viridian units, whether they're hands, support, base. You get to the flexibility is you don't have to wait for some of them, right?
Yeah.
So some of the things to look forward in the futures, if you pick up like other things, again, right now you wouldn't have to wait to get that big support nasty, right? You could go ahead and do it the first slot if you want.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Which a lot of the other posse builds tend to make you wait for your support model in 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah.
Similar like Conquistador, face, support.
Yeah, so you got to go all the way to slot 4 before you get your support.
Right. So the Conquistador support is the Brothers Pizarro, which is the big giant cannon, which obviously most everyone who has to face the Conquistador is like, yeah, let him wait till deeper in his posse, please.
Please.
Yeah, I think when looking at building the Viridian Clade theme posse, what I would do, like you mentioned, is I would just look at all the stat cards, look at those keywords that are underneath the unit's name, and just look for Viridian, and just pull out all your Viridian options, and then start kind of playing with your points, and, okay, what's the size for this full unit? You may be looking at a lot of faces. I don't think there's a lot of them, but in a way, it's kind of an easy way to build a theme posse for these guys.
Right. So they have there's 2 Viridian bases currently. It's the Locust Betas, and they're non-unique, right? So you can bring more than one.
Yeah.
Right. They're considered bases, so they're not a team-up unit. There's just one of them, but you can bring more than one. And they're the weapon array guys. They have the little backpack guns in addition to their big sword and blaster. So those are the locusts. The Viridian Chogies beta is the beta that has the flight pack. So they have flight, they're able to zip around, and they also aren't unique, so you can bring more than one. And I think in the box, when you buy them, you get betas in the box.
Yeah, I think you do. I think I have one sitting downstairs waiting to be built.
And the other Viridian unit is a hands unit, the Viridian Chogi, which again, they're the flight pack hands, so they're not as good as the beta, but you can bring a hands unit with these guys. And then they have the Viridian Locusts. They're, again, the weapon array guys. They are a support unit.
Wow.
And that's basically what you have as far as your options are currently for the Watchers and the Viridians. So you have...
I got a little excited, Brian. I just saw Papa Trinity. And I clicked on him, and I was like, oh, he's Cerulean. Dang.
He does not pick up the Viridian.
Would he not stand out like a sore thumb?
Yeah.
Man.
So, if you're doing the theme, just various units of the Viridians, and that's how you would build your posse. The trick would be...
Fill the unit out, right?
Right.
Now, is that the minimum, right? You just need the minimum to basically qualify for the full unit? Because some of them are like 3 to 6, I think is what it is.
It says, if all Viridian units in the posse are at maximum unit size.
Max size, so, okay.
Then they gain the prodigious rule. So it doesn't mean you have to fill all 6 slots. It just means if you bring a Viridian unit, a hands unit, that Viridian hands unit needs to be at maximum size. And if it is, that unit gains prodigious.
All right, let's see.
You bring a beta.
Okay.
His max unit size is 1. So you bring a beta, he's automatically getting,
Yeah.
Prodigious.
Right? So that's how you have to work this, is you have to make sure whatever you decide to bring. Like if you want, you can just bring the Viridian Alpha with 3 and 3 of the betas.
Oh, that's true. Because he's not unique, right?
And they're all max, so they all get prodigious, right? You can bring a hands unit, but you'll have to bring the max number of models in that unit for it to trigger.
What does it cost on those guys? You have one, he's 130, so... And
the Viridian Chogi hands unit is 3 to 6 at 60 apiece.
Yeah, and that's pretty affordable. 60, for a 60-point unit.
Well, it's not cheap. The issue is, as you do add more multiple model units, the costs of your posse go up.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So not having to go to all 6 is helpful because you'll trigger the prodigious a little quicker, if you do commit to some of the bigger units, right? You bring a support unit, you bring a hands unit, just one of each, and you're already in the 600 range for your posse already spent because they're expensive.
All right, guys. Well, that kind of covers our 2 bosses. What do you guys think for winning this face-off here? You guys thinking that pesky Juan Ponce, who's causing all kinds of trouble for the Watchers, or the Alpha there? I like the Alpha personally.
I'm going for the Alpha, and in a straight up fight, I think it would be up in the air.
I mean, he's just.
Ponce has that -4, which ignores the Xeno Shield.
True.
And then it's a -4, so I don't care how high your grid is. -4 is going to knock you down pretty good. So I at least give him a puncher's chance.
Right. In a straight up.
Yep.
A boss v boss fight. The fact that Ponce also picks up his second strike cheaper. Right. So he's going to have a little more fortune sticking around.
Yeah, a lot of it's Ponce just has to get to him. He's got to get in that melee.
Well, not necessarily, because the Viridian's going to need to. Because the Viridian only has a 10-inch range on his blaster. and his blaster's nothing compared to.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, the 20-inch.
Right. So really, the Viridian wants to close range because he's better in melee.
So they both have parry. Well, Viridian does have close work on his blaster, though, too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going Viridian.
I think Ponce might beat head to head.
Well,
Posse-wise, I think the Watchers Posse clash.
But isn't the Smoke-Wagon head to head?
It is. You know what? I may have to test this theory out coming up soon at Adepticon, because I know a certain community member that loves his Conquistadors, and I do have the Watchers. So we may have to test this out. That's right. I'm calling you out, Benji.
Nice.
He's going to wipe the floor with you, man.
He probably will, because I don't know how to play him.
I was going to say, you better get some practice games in.
Maybe I'll make Chris play him. He plays Watchers all the time.
Right.
But
yeah, I think Tom's right. In a hand-to-hand between the two, I think Ponce is going to squeak out.
And you got hand-to-hand between the two, and then you've got, still ranged between the two. And I think Ponce has the advantage there as well.
Right. With ammo clip, decapitate, pierce 2, I think so.
He's got the tools to do things. He can play the range game.
Definitely does have more tools.
Let him kite the Viridian a little bit. I think that's a tough thing for the Viridian to deal with.
Right. And Ponce also has prodigious, so when he's focusing, he's doing it a little better.
Yep.
Now, would Viridian get that prodigious with the theme posse if you ran a theme posse?
I was wondering the same thing. If only we knew a rules person.
The way it's written, I don't think so, because
it says units.
But the boss is not a unit in the posse.
Yeah. So that is
Isn't he, though?
No. They don't consider him a unit in the posse. He's the boss of the posse, but most of the time the bosses don't benefit unless it specifically says the boss gets it. Kind of like Billy the Kid. It literally says Billy the Kid gets this. When he meets his whatever. I think he gains treasure hunter, like if he's in an outlaw posse or something.
Interesting.
I feel like I've changed your minds on this. You both came out hot and heavy for the Viridian.
Well, I was thinking posse versus posse.
Yeah, I kind of was too, because I've played the Viridian posses a lot.
Based on having all those extra people with flight, the potential.
Yeah. They can be a fast posse, really. I've only played one, maybe once or twice, and that was in first edition, so I haven't even tried them yet in the new rule sets that we have, but he does seem very intriguing. And he does have ties with my outlaws.
I think you have to try one out.
I might have to. I'm going to try them both out. How about that?
Sounds fair.
But yeah, I think we're all kind of switching. Well, not you, Tom. You're the only one that knew who you wanted. I think me and Brian are kind of swinging towards Juan there. But what we'll do, as always, we'll go ahead and post a poll up after we post the episode. So keep an eye open for that, and you guys can kind of chime in who you guys think would win this epic showdown of these two bosses that are very much tied together with the fluff. There's so much that happened in our game because of these two.
Just remember, if you want to be right, vote for Ponce.
But I think that's going to about do it for this Smoke-Wagon. Go ahead, you guys, and watch for that poll and vote on who you think is going to win. Alright, ready, Brian?
Yep.
Alright, guys, we're back with a segment that we're going to go ahead and go over some terrain talk. and we were talking a little bit off the air last time we recorded about doing just kind of a little talk about scatter terrain and kind of coming up with your own homebrew, making stuff out of scrap pieces of, hobby building materials that you got in by your art area. And we also thought of it would be kind of cool to, when you do something like this, kind of theme it after whatever your chosen faction is. So the three of us came up with some easy scatter terrain that we could make for our chosen factions that we hope maybe would give you guys some ideas. But before we went over that, do we kind of want to talk a little bit about scatter terrain, Brian, and why it's kind of an important thing when you build your boards? And sometimes people just think of the buildings themselves or just like some kind of tree or rocks, but don't really think about, that thematic scatter terrain that can add to the board and to the story and actually be geared towards the factions.
Right. So I think when we had Mac on, he went over how he layers the board, right? And so a lot of beginners in wargaming, they only have one layer.
Yeah.
Right. So it's typically because you just started doing so, you've got whatever large objects you have on hand, maybe from other games, and that's what you use. As long as there's some line of sight blocking, maybe some buildings that you can jump in and out of, and you're good to go. What Mac was saying is, well, you can capture the imagination by making sure you layer your boards from the base, which would be like a mat or didn't he show us how in a video how you can take a faux fur rug?
Yeah, I got one of those.
And spray paint it green and comb the poo out of it. You can shave it down and make a various grasslands-esque, make your own grassland mat, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you can dump a lot of money into, those mouse pad game boards that are painted or printed.
Yeah.
I found someone who was taking just felt and rolling out felt, and they, did their paint onto the felt, and, you're good to go. So that's your base, right? Then after that, you check your scenario. It's going to tell you, hey, this is kind of how you need to suggest you lay out the buildings.
Yep.
Or whatever your large terrain is, right? So you want, on a 3x3, you want at least 5 pieces of larger terrain. And that would be your second layer. So you got your foundation, now you got your large pieces. At that point, a lot of people think they're done. Well, problem with that is it makes your game very one-dimensional. If you add scatter terrain, and War Cradle has some of the early outlaw scatter terrain, you can probably still get that fairly easy, of various sizes, and crates.
Yeah.
RJ canisters. I think one of the sets had like mine cars.
I think there's a wrecked iron horse in one of them too.
Right. That was like one of the $5 a month programs way back when. And it's a wrecked. Then there's a barricade. It's kind of like a fence with a canister at the end. So there's quite a few things that War Cradle has. Well, if you don't have any of that, you can make those, right? And the key is to make them in various sizes. All terrain, causes a defensive boon for your models. Well, if you don't have any scattered terrain and you only got those 5 big pieces of terrain on the board, man, that's a bloodbath.
Yeah, there's nothing to hide behind and get those little bonuses.
So you want to start layering in some tall scatter terrain, like a fence or 2. They're tall enough to where, models can't crawl over them. Mm-hmm. They block line of sight, or they at least obscure. There's a lot of those things that you're going to want to put in there. Then you go with the shorter pieces that are smaller than a small base that your models can roll over, like climb over. They don't have to expend any extra energy to get over them. And then you can start thinking of other things like what's the environment? Do I want to add, do I want to add a pool, or do I want to add like a little creek that runs through my board? Do I want to? And those are the things where your hobby skills can come in, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the different layers, right? And that's what I guess it brings your imagination into the ground where your models are playing, right? I think we talked about trees.
Yeah.
Even in a western town, there's nothing wrong with throwing a tree or two in there. You used one of the residents' war cradle buildings. There's no reason you can't have a smaller white picket fence.
Yeah.
It's line of sight. It brings in. It also starts telling a story. It's like, okay, whoever lives there has got a wife. She wanted a picket fence. I built a lot of terrain in the beginning because it was cheaper to hand build stuff. So I built an outhouse, very small, but it's considered scattered terrain, right? So those type of things. And really, there's so much out there where you can just wing it. You can go to Michael's, and they have all kinds of small.
Oh, I've gotten the wooden blocks there. Those just small wooden blocks, painted them up to look like crates, and hot glued them together so I can have a stack of them.
Yeah, no, exactly. That there's just so many things that you can do, and that's why we wanted to say is like, hey, what can we do as a way of talking through a couple of builds, right?
Yeah.
So my favorites of action is lawmen. And so what I was thinking of is, these lawmen, sometimes they're in their little towns and it's just maybe one or two deputies and maybe a UR30 bot. So why not? We've seen the Iron Horse recharging station. Why not a UR30 recharging station?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of on the ground, it would be something that stands up that, the UR30 bot maybe stands in, or like a little alcove.
Kind of like a phone booth.
Or, if you think of Star Trek, the Borg on their Borg ship, they would just stand out, and that's how they would, power up or sleep or regenerate, whatever. But you can just kit back that. You got a bunch of pieces from your MDF or cradle kits. You can just use those and glue it together and paint it, put a bunch of RJ glow on it, and now you got a little UR30 recharge kit.
Yeah, it's not that hard to take little bits and pieces and glue them together, and when you paint it all black or prime it all black, and then actually start painting it like a different color, like your metallic colors or whatever, you'd be amazed at how it all suddenly looks like something completely different than what you used to build it.
Right. So I showed you the two RJ Iron Horse recharge stations I have, right?
Yeah, I had a hard time telling those apart.
One was bought, and I don't really have any way of resin recasting. So instead of even exploring that option, I had all those extra little pieces of MDF, and so I used that, a couple of pieces of plastic. I have some rod that I had bought, plastic rod that I used for studs when I built some of my scratch build building. Use that, some studs for this, and I made a recharge station, and it looks very similar to the resin one. And from 2 or 3 feet over the playing area, it's hard to tell which one's which.
Yeah. I mean, that's something to think about too, that you mentioned 3 feet from the table. If you guys are building this kind of scratch built stuff, and use your imagination and don't worry about, what does it look like when it's like a foot away from my face, because you are going to be standing up. You kind of want to get that feeling, that theme of, oh, that's a such and such there, in the town. And it's enough. It's enough to work for the scatter terrain and to serve its purpose of giving you that little bit of boost, and at the same time adding that theme and that story to your board that you built. Well, the idea I came up with for some scatter terrain, and I kind of racked my brain a little bit about this for the Enlightened, because the only thing I had to go off of was something industrial. You know, they're kind of known for their factories and turning out the different creations that they're going to use in their posses. But I actually was looking through an online magazine. I'll give them a little plug here. So the magazine is known as Bexham's Bazaar, and it's created by James Kelly, otherwise known as a tabletop engineer on YouTube. And this magazine he created is a RPG and wargaming magazine that has all kinds of articles in it that anywhere from, you know, tables for Dungeons and Dragons and little hobby crafting type articles, or it has battle reports and stuff in it too. It's a pretty neat magazine. It's kind of a throwback to the old Dragon magazine that you can easily, you know, for a couple bucks subscribe to on through Patreon, and you can do a direct download or you know, for digital or a PDF, and I think there's a way you can even print it out. So if you guys are interested, I'll go ahead and, you know, below in the show notes I'll put some links and stuff so you guys can check it out and possibly support Jim and his magazine he's creating. So what I saw in this magazine, something cool what they did with a plastic hair roller that you would, you know, the ladies would use to curl their hair that they got at the dollar store. And they took this plastic hair roller, split it up, and it kind of looks like what they did with it was they attached it to different pieces of, you know, extra foam board and made it look like a caged ladder. Now, what I thought was neat is that you could even take that, and depending on the size that you got, you can get an even bigger one that, say, could be literally a cage. And you could, you know, if it was the size of a guy, it could be, you know, some kind of cage of Dr. C was taking recruits and he was putting him in this cage. And I thought about building something that was kind of about the size of an outhouse, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe more like a 2x2, and on you know, have this maybe a caged ladder going to the top of it, and then on the top with the foam board, depending on if it was round or square, maybe even hex shape, doing a cutout and then using like some wire mesh, you know, glue that on the underside of it so it looks like a kind of like your wire mesh steel plate type thing. You know, somebody's walking up there, and you can take it further and use toothpicks and like jewelry necklace type thing to be like maybe a chain link going from those, you know, the poles. So there's all kinds of different things you could do with that, and I thought that was, you know, it kind of started my mind. You know, I saw one little thing in this magazine, and it got my mind going of, you know, what I could do, just taking that one little thing and kind of trying to make it industrial and fit into my Enlightened. So I thought that was kind of something neat.
Yeah, no, and that's the neat thing about trying to find faction specific stuff. I mean, you can pretty much just go crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, say for like the Order, you know, their temples. Maybe you can do statues, or you can, you know,
probably find something
really
that's kind of Greek themed, and, you know, kind of retweak it so it would fit with Order.
Right. Well, you know, I have like a set of the Lord of the Rings miniature game.
Okay.
And have all those countless elves.
Yeah.
They're all like stiff looking, and I mean, you can use those as statues. Just paint them stone-esque, and
put them on some kind of square base, like build it up.
Kind,
yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. So Tom, you had some ideas for Union, right? Other than a burning tree with Sherman's heart, old reliable, carved into it.
Oh, he's just misunderstood. So some thoughts I was having. So, I live out in Pennsylvania, and, I'm not too far from Gettysburg. I drive over the bridge over Washington Crossing every day on my way to work. So kind of this area, there's a lot that happened here, both Revolutionary War and then into the Civil War. And you can see some of the terrain that's here. One thing that really stands out around here is there's stone walls everywhere. Mm-hmm. It looks a lot like you'd see all the little stone walls in Ireland and stuff. And it's just because the ground is so rocky as farms were being established and stuff. They'd pull up the rocks and they'd build border walls. And that would be something that'd be both thematic, because you could picture, the Union gun lines coming up to those walls and using them for cover, and fairly easy to make because it's rocks. You just go out and get some rocks, from your garden or from a hobby store or whatever you want to do. And you start building them up. You can take a strip of, balsa wood or something that's maybe a half-inch thick and, however long you want it to be long. And you can literally just start building a wall and gluing these things. And you basically just stagger how the rocks fit on them. Obviously, a little bit flatter ones make it easier than round ones. But, then you can have these little portable walls that you can kind of just lay out wherever you want. And you can break up, not firing lines so much, but you could break up the movement lines while also creating some partial cover for any units that are moving in and around them. And those go really well out in kind of like a field, put in high grass, and, you have the feel of kind of farmland that you're marching through, whether it's cornfields or, whatever, broken up by these stone walls. You could also put in fences, defense posts. It's a lot of cattle grazing, more dairy cows around here than anything, but they're all fenced in. So you put in wooden fences, and again, that just gives some partial cover, and breaks up the movement lines more than the sight lines.
Yeah.
But it's a very East Coast type of farmland versus like a frontier type farmland.
Yeah. I think it would be neat. You're talking about like kind of the more established farm and not like the frontier type homestead, like a big hay bale, not like super big, but big enough that those guys can't just easily jump over it. Would be kind of neat. Go with your stone walls and stuff like that.
And that can give you. That can actually give you.
There are plenty of places in Texas that had so much stone, especially mid Texas, like around Austin, San Antonio. There's so much rock and stone. A lot of their homesteads use those stones for the same thing.
Yeah.
So you could do those stone.
Yeah, you could in the West easily.
It doesn't matter anywhere in the U.S. except for maybe, your swamp board.
There you would use like your basic sticks. Just take your sticks to make your fence line.
Yep. So, and Eric, like you said, with the hay bales and everything, you could use those to actually be your line of sight blockers, and you're using them instead of crates, basically.
Yeah.
But they're serving the same purpose from a scatter standpoint.
And I mean, it's kind of one of those things you just kind of use your imagination, and we thought it would be neat that if you centered on like whatever your faction is and try to kind of brainstorm some ideas of what that particular faction would be, and like what would be some stuff that you would find around where they would frequent, and maybe that would help you come up with some scatter terrain to build into your boards.
Yes.
I was reading notes to see if there's anything we missed, but I think that about covers it. I was actually going to go into some of these things that we're kind of talking about that you guys can use are, you want to think about what is like fairly inexpensive and, easily accessible that you can, use your imagination and build stuff like this. The plastic hair rollers that I came up with, you can get those at the dollar store. The dollar store is really great for finding just odds and end, whether it's a crafting section there or, like I said, that's probably right in the beauty aisle. And you get that for $1 and you take it home, prime it, paint it, attach it to some scrap MDF like Brian said, and you can make something industrial. Or like Tom's stone walls, you can find that out in your yard, or the pet store. They have those bags of stone that you can put in fish tanks and stuff like that, and they're fairly inexpensive. Brian, you mentioned you wanted to do something like a tumbleweed when we first started talking about this.
That's right. It's not really faction specific, but tumbleweed, you can get it into it as you want, but a simple one is...
It's a cotton ball, right?
Cotton ball, yeah. Just kind of stretch out a cotton ball a little bit and hit it with a little bit of brown paint. Yeah.
And then you got a tumbleweed. So, I mean, these are all, ideas that you think about, okay, what can I make this out of? We were talking about fences, dowel rods. Those are cheap. You can find those anywhere from Ace Hardware to any hobby store. So yeah, kind of use your
skewers.
Yeah,
the wooden skewers.
That's right.
You can find those in the grocery store.
So there's lots of places you can find raw material for making some of these ideas we came up with. It's more or less we came up with this to kind of bring up for you guys to kind of think about, use your imagination of something that would fit with the factions and help you guys add a little bit more theme and story to the boards that you set up. And in the same sense, it's adding something to your games because you're getting some kind of benefit from it. But I think that about does it. Do you guys have anything else you can think of to add to this little terrain talk?
Here's one thing. Even if it's not your table, say you're visiting and you have some of your own scratch terrain, bring it.
Yeah.
You never know what your table looks like until you get there, right? So if you keep some of these little pieces of scatter terrain in your war bag, when you get there, you see what the table is at, and there's not enough scatter terrain. Break out your own scatter terrain. Say, hey, bud, that's not enough scatter terrain, man. We're gonna get all our dudes killed. So here, I brought some scatter terrain to add to the table.
And and if you feel like it's gonna feel out of place, say because it's maybe too industrial for this frontier town, well, you know what? Take that industrial piece of scatter terrain you made, maybe put it by a wagon. Maybe they're transporting it. So you can kind of think of it that way, that's why it's there. So it wouldn't feel like it's out of place for you.
Well, and even with that, with the industrial type thing, this is a weird West where technology is starting to show up and become commonplace anywhere. You can really attach it to anything and be like, hey, that's the guy that's a little bit ahead that has some money in town.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything would really look out of place that way.
Yeah, the guy running the town may be that rich railroad owner.
Or no, it was just it was shipped to the wrong place.
Oops. No, not by the Pony Express.
Yeah, no offense.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Fighting words.
Yeah, I know. Those are fighting words. I'm going to end this segment now. Or I start to cry. But, yeah, I mean, you guys just go ahead and let your imagination run wild and see what you guys can come up with. And if you guys have any cool ideas, shoot them our way. Maybe we'll talk about them, and maybe it'll give us some more ideas. So we'll go ahead and move on, and good luck with coming up with some scatter terrain ideas, guys. Alrighty, guys. That's gonna about do it for the show today. But before we get out of here, we thought we would, as always, go over some new releases that are coming out at the end of this month. And I know a lot of people are excited about the new Posse box that we're getting. So we have finally for... Oh my god, I just blanked.
The heck?
So we finally have for Marie Laveau in the Hex a new Posse set for her. What's that set called, Brian? Because I don't want to say it.
The Court of the Nzambu. So for the longest time when she first came out, we knew that her posse needed Nzambu creatures, throughout, right?
Yeah.
And we only really had the Nzambu snake. And then Opie came out. So then you had two. Well, now we have her posse set. And it comes with a couple of new Nzambu-esque figures. So it's been teasered through sketches for a while. And they're very much the southern Louisiana swamp voodoo-esque.
Oh yeah, totally is.
Models, and of course there's a big zombie creature as well in the group.
Has a new Hexalith in there too.
That's right, yeah. So we get another Hexalith. So one came with Lucretia and Tutubo, right?
I think that came with one, and then the third man had one in his set too.
Right. So we had two previous, and now we have a third that comes with her new set.
And it looks like, so coming along with Marie is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 new models. I know 2 of them are like a mother-daughter type faces, and then there's her husband, and then a big old nasty creature looking guy.
Right. So if you know anything about the fluff of Marie Laveau, she is the legendary Marie Laveau is who Marie Laveau is. It's
her true form.
She's an ancient monster that is able to basically, through her power, make everyone around her think she's this voodoo priest. And so everyone sees her that way, but she secretly is this big, large squid creature.
It's an excellent looking model.
Right. I think that both the models are really nice. So she hides with her magic, but she's been manipulating people through the ages as she's grown in power. So the story, the fluff on the website is actually pretty good. Go read it. It's a little long for us to go through it word for word, but it basically talks about one of the characters in the set named Cleo. Her title is the Nzambu Crone, and evidently her family has been linked with Marie Laveau for generations.
Mm-hmm.
So Cleo's grandmother was the first that found the egg that hatched and then became Marie Laveau as it grew. So they've kind of grew up with Marie Laveau teaching them all these weird dark energy S-type powers, and herbalism and witchcraft. And so all this spread the legends of different voodoo witchcraft throughout the swamps. So they're very much linked. The big creature that you're talking about has a name. It's Jacques Santiago. And it says that he was basically...
He wasn't a nice man when he was a man.
Yeah, he was kind of a jerk, and he was a gambling drunk, and evidently he was courting Marie Laveau. And she used him as a way of, I guess, embedding herself in a more civilized world in around New Orleans. And as she no longer needed him, he basically succumbed to the dark influence of the hex. But instead of flaring out as a hex beast, he's lingering because of that connection he has with Marie Laveau.
Yeah.
So she tinkers with him, so he's got little more zombie-esque modifications to him, but he's basically a modified zombie hex beast. And so he's big, gruesome, nasty.
Yeah, he's kind of got like whatever scrap pieces of, wood, steel. He's got a peg leg, which is kind of neat. I mean, it looks like a typical like hex beast type model that'd be fun to paint.
Right.
But
so one of the models is called Cemetery Criminal, and they kind of detail him, describe him. He's a master of the dead, and he can cure mortals of diseases. His power is especially great when it comes to curses and black magic. And so he's basically, he reminds me of the, so she's all Princess and the Frog, the remake.
Yeah. Okay.
He kind of reminds me of that,
Yeah, he's got the classic, I think it's a top hat with like the, the voodoo influences of feathers and...
right.
Yeah. Shadow Man,
yeah. So he looks pretty cool. And then Zora is the Nzambu Oracle. I don't really see anything written specifically.
I think she's Cleo's granddaughter.
Yeah, that's right. So Zora is the granddaughter. So she's a younger, Nzambu, and she's named the Oracle. So I'm assuming when we see their cards, she may have some of the more mental stuff with her power,
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this varied group. You have two Nzambus. They grew up with someone who has quite a bit of manipulation in the game.
Yeah.
So I imagine there'll be some synergy with those two.
Yeah.
And then I'd be curious to see what the Master of the Dead with the criminal, how he can be in the game and stuff. So it should be interesting.
That could be something like, with the Enlightened, how they can bring back units. Maybe he can,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. But one of the other new releases we got is a support box coming out that's going to be Raiders and Hex Sharpshooters. So you can include these long-range sharpshooters in your units of Raiders or for like the Outlaws or with the Hex. And this is this is not really a new model, but more or less just a kind of a cleanup of an older model that used to come with, I think, the hand boxes. So they're kind of re-releasing them.
No, they never came. They typically, when you bought a starter set under Outlaw, you got one of the two.
Okay.
Right. So then you would pick up the other one solo or
as a blister or something.
Right.
Okay, and I can't remember if we've seen pictures of this one. That if like some of the other support boxes coming out, if there's like a new sculpt for them. You're getting 3 in the box. There's a little bit of variation with them. Like you get the guys, resting the foot on the box, and then there's another guy that's just standing there. The variation looks like it's going to be in their guns, their weapons. And some of their outfits are a little bit different too. But it's three guys that you can use for a support slot when you're posse building.
Right. It doesn't look like they come with the other weapons in this set.
Let me see. It says juiced shotgun. So you get one guy with a juiced shotgun and then 2 with sniper rifles.
Right. So it's just those 2 upgrade options. So it would be neat if we start seeing where you're able to kit bash by getting a set of the various weapons that the whole posse gets to, or the whole faction gets to use for those upgrades.
Yeah.
So you can actually have a model with your Gatlin for the Outlaws, or a rocket pod.
Yeah, I'm curious to what some of the other weapons would look like. So hopefully they do release some more like this variations of the different weapon types.
Right.
All right, and then the other release that we got coming out is the Deputized Support Team. And that one, I think, Brian, you'll be excited to get for your lawman. It's also another support box, and it looks like you get 3 models in that too.
Right. So it's a support box. It's going to come with the shotgun support unit and Gatlins.
Oh, yeah, the volcanic shotgun. And then the Gatlings. Yeah, you get one of the shotgun and two with the Gatling guns in this set. And, yeah, you got to... I just look at the picture. One of them looks like Jesse Ventura from Predator.
So that's the original.
He ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah, that's the original Deputy Gatlin. And he does. He even got the little dent in his chin. I mean, look. You know, if you remember the scene from Predator, that's what it looks like. I mean,
he even looks like he's got a mouthful of some chew in there. He's getting ready to spit. Yeah, and then the other guy with the shotgun's pretty cool. He's got a pretty neat stance. He's like really bearing down, getting ready to fire that 4-barrel.
Yeah, he looks like he's ready for some action.
Pretty cool. But yeah, that's our releases that we're getting at the end of the month. And we didn't really get any teases for next month, did we, Brian?
not yet. So
it's a little early for it, isn't it?
Well, sometimes during the month we'll start getting the spoiler teasers. We just haven't gotten any.
Okay.
So there's no discussion yet. I'm sure by the time these pre-orders go shipping, we'll probably hear something what to expect for February.
Okay. One last thing for news before we get out of here. We want to go over some con dates coming up that War Cradle's going to be at with their booth, showing off Wild West Exodus and demoing some of the other games they got coming down the pipe. First up, we have the Gamma Trade Show, which is actually a retailer con where they show off their different merchandise that is for sale for stores or online stores to carry for customers. And that is the 11th and 12th of March in Reno, Nevada, here in the U.S. And then next up, we have one that's in my backyard, Adepticon. And that's March 26th through the 29th in Schaumburg, Illinois. And that should be a good one. We got, I know there's a lot of community members that are going to it, and there should be a lot of little side events there. And then the last one I have on the list here is the UK Games Expo in Birmingham, UK. And that is May 29th and the 30th. So if you guys are kind of in those areas, you could check them out and see what kind of new stuff they got coming out. Well, I think that's going to do it for today's show, guys. Go ahead and make sure you go and check out us on our Facebook page. We're always putting up some new stuff on what we're all getting into. It's at Blackhoof WWX Podcast. And feel free to email us with any ideas you guys have for scatter terrain, or if you want to hear some, you guys got some ideas for a new Smoke-Wagon Showdown. We will go ahead and add it, or if you have any input on our Smoke-Wagon for this episode, visit us on Twitter and Instagram. We're posting pictures on there. You never know. I may post up a spontaneous unboxing video, or, you can check us out on YouTube and see Brian and Tom painting. we got to do another one of those, guys. I think that was one of our popular videos. It seemed... I think not just Tom learned from you, Brian.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, and I think we have something in the works for the next one.
Cool.
So it'll be a surprise.
Thanks, you guys, for listening and supporting the show. We will go ahead and get out of here. We got some stuff to build and paint and try and get ready for our next events. And if you guys have some cool stuff that you're working on, go ahead and post it up on our Facebook page, or we'd like to see what you guys are working on. This is Eric saying take it easy. And listen, guys, whether you're using your Viridian to phone home and get some help to get off the planet, or if you're building some golden idol scatter terrain for Wanpons to hide behind, then take. Remember to ride with the sun at your back and always roll those big crits. Say bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
All right, until next time, take it easy, guys.
Thanks for stopping by the Blackhoof Saloon, y'all. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Feel free to get a hold of us with comments or questions via the interwebs and shoot us a telegraph at blackhoofsaloon@gmail.com. You can also find us on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Music for the podcast was provided for use by Ross Bugden and can be found at one of his YouTube channels, Ross Bugden Music or Ross Bugden Composer. Until your next visit, ride with the sun at your back and always roll those big crits.
I think Kyle the Black.
Yeah, see?
Sorry, the Kyle the not black. What is he now?
Red and white. Yeah.
I think he's the nicest looking one. I might just be partial to that dog, though.
Oh, yeah, that dog's cool. And like I said, I like that they give you two options for the bases on that. Yeah.
True.
He just needs blue. Red, white, and blue. He'd be all over America.
Yeah.
A 4th of July figure.
Oh.
Wow. Could you imagine them making that one?
Yeah.
I don't know how that would go over.
But yeah, Krampus is killing it with 19 votes.
Nice.
Next to 6 and 4. So I think we know who that one's going to win. All right. So I got those stats.
Rigged.
Rigged. Well, there's a lot of Hex players out there, though. Hopefully it's not our influences.
Nah, stupid Hex. I guess I got to pull up their cards, huh?
2 polls.
But I'm painting. I'm painting. You're going to interrupt me to pull up the cards?
I'm in a groove.
He was the old Jake Mattia.
Yeah. And then, yeah, Thomas Tate Tobin. That's it for faces. They got no hands. And just that one support.
Yeah. They got caught stealing?
Yeah. That's cool.
Brian, I'm putting all your lessons into action.
Sweet.
He's just going to start making everything glow. Doesn't matter if
Everything.
It needs to be. Everything's going to be glowing, RJ.
It doesn't matter. I'm going to get some fluorescent blue, and I'm going to make Grumpy Bear glow.
Well, I don't know if that's a good idea. That fluorescent blue is that's what some weird stuff, man.
I don't know. Grumpy Bear is going to have to come out of the case and get work done on him again. I also have Flock.
Oh, get the Flock out of here.
It'll look awesome. It'll be like, mid-90s GW.
You got to put them on a square base then. Tom, for your union, you could just go get like a tree and just light it on fire and then put it out, and it can be, somebody's
burned out.
Somebody's garden that union burnt out.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm going to go outside and just grab a rock. You get a nice fist-sized rock. Boom, I got a boulder.
It's Sherman's favorite tree.
He always deploys next to it. It's one of his rules.
It's his target tree.
And then he put his initials in it.
But what's it called? Does his weapon have a name?
Oh, God. Yeah, it does. I can't think of what it is, though.
And I don't have any bad gaming habits. I don't have any good ones either.
Old reliable.
You got to have gaming habits at all.
First.
Sherman plus reliable.
Is that what it's called? Reliable?
It's all reliable. A burnt tree with his weapon's name on it.
Yeah, Hart.
Oh, God, that's funny. Sherman Hart's old reliable. Yeah, I thought it had an actual, like, name.
Like Vera.
Yeah. Lulabelle.
Lulabelle. That's an awesome name.
Hey, Brian, I was telling Tom that when I was downstairs earlier, I dug out my Viridian Alpha set. I gotta get ready for Benji.
Oh, no.
I need an ass whooping, I guess, right?
That's how you learn. You don't learn by winning, you learn by losing.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I've got my ass whooped enough by the Watchers that I think I might be able to play them.
All right.
We'll see.
And that's all this is. It's all on theme. So it's just, what's the future of law enforcement? We've got judgments and interceptors, and the only thing that's not future of law enforcement here are the deputies. And
yeah,
I'm forced to take them. So I took the smallest number of them I could.
Not me. Not me. Double J's killing everything.
No, I'll have the deputies just hang out with Morgan or Jed to take their hits.
But
it's
fun.
I'm trying to be wholesome.
No,
I'm trying to be wholesome.
Not me. I'm an outlaw.
I'm going to lose a lot, but I'm going to lose wholesomely.
Yeah, you'll lose with holes.
He's going to tip his hat and say, "Good day, sir."
Yes.
Man.